Hi, hello. I went to G-Fest again for some reason. This year's convention had some pretty high ups and some slight downs, but I'd overall say I enjoyed it more than last year. Rather than spoiling my thoughts now, I once again logged my travels and have this sort of vlog prepared. I did try to script this one a little better than last year's vlog, so there's gonna be more constructed sentences, but expect some unscripted asides. I hope you enjoy it. Also, warning to people who care about photo and video quality, my phone's camera is not very good, so please bear with the poor quality for now. I will get a better phone by next year, I swear. We left pretty early in the morning at 2:30, per usual. I say we because this time both of my friends, Boom Mage and Potato Zuli, were available. I didn't get any sleep because I was just so excited to see the G-Fest pig again.
Hey there, guy. Whoa.
Before we left, I decided to make some sandwiches to get me through the weekend, because there was no way in hell I was spending $10 a pop for cafeteria food tier hamburgers again. Call it a Minya burger all you want, that shit only meets the bare minimum of edible. When we arrive, the Hyatt Regency Hotel is just as I remember it from last year. Oppressive and labyrinthian. Like, seriously, these walkways made of concrete, it gives a not great vibe. After getting my pre-registered badge, I was able to take in just how packed it was. Like, especially compared to last year. Lots of people in cowboy hats for Don Fry's appearance here as well. I didn't go to that panel, so, I don't know how that went. After getting a picture with Godzilla, and too cowardly to brave the line into the dealer's room right away, I instead checked out the film room downstairs, where space monster Wong Magui was unfortunately playing. I have things to say about this thing, but I'll save it for another video, I guess. Next, I bit the bullet and entered the line into the dealer's room, aka the sweat pit. Now, I just want to say up front that I did not wear my mask as frequently this year. I did whip it out for the trek through the dealer's room every time, because it's honestly a shock I didn't catch something in there last year. Also, it stinks. You gotta have some protection for your nose. I noticed right away that the bootleg dealer seen in earlier conventions was absent. They must have finally cracked down on him. I noticed a lot less DVD and Blu-ray dealers too, way more toy sellers reselling them at various and usually hiked up prices. Don't fall for these, they're usually much cheaper online. Like, yeah, there's that instant gratification of buying the figure right then and now and not having to wait like a couple months because of like Japan shipping fees or whatever, but it's not worth it. You don't need to buy it now. But I do recommend Beast from the East, which was the seller in the sort of middle upper range here. They resell their stuff for fair prices. I still wouldn't spend $30 on a Movie Monsters series Eva Unit 1, but they resold a bunch of SH Figuart Ultraman at the prices they were when they released, which is extremely fair. I crawled out of the dealer's room with this little haul. I solemnly swear these will be the last toys I get during this convention. Important to note that G-Fest did not print out guides this year. Everything is online, which stinks because finding the website everything is hosted on is a pain. Would have much rather they had a little booklets we could reach into and check every time we wanted to. It feels less personal when you can just whip out a phone and look at it. I mean, it would be nice to have both options, but I don't like just the completely digital option. To pass the time until I passed out, keep in mind I was operating on like 1 hour of sleep. There was a whole snafu with the hotel booking that prevented us from getting sleep right away. I'm not getting into the details. I poked around downstairs. There was this model room showcasing a bunch of giant statues that I will never ever own. They're just completely out of my price range. This Ghidorah is seriously bigger than a lot of the kids running around here. It's pretty cool. The game room, massage, and kids' place were all accounted for this year. Nothing really different. I also met Kyodai Kino in person. Their first impression of me last year was me being all groggy because I hadn't gotten any sleep. So I'm glad this interaction was more casual. Cool guy, go subscribe. I played Ultra X weapons with Boom Mage and made it all the way to the end. What you're seeing is the both of us ducking out of the way to avoid being caught on camera like a bunch of cryptids. An orange squid appeared and tried to turn me into an alien, but I narrowly escaped. Nah, but seriously, you're cool. Thanks for the meetup. I met another Discord mutual, Bog of Bones, and we had a very nice conversation. Then I had an interaction with a fan. It's okay, we're all a little awkward, me especially. You did good. I was then finally able to access the room and try to get some sleep. Here we checked out the dedicated Kaiju channel, of which there are 2. Thankfully, unlike last year, the footage wasn't in black and white, but the quality of the video files is still less than desired. This file of Mega Monster Battle the movie must be over a decade old by now. It's blown up on a 4K television too. Other than that, we had a fun time riffing this one. I'll make a dedicated ultra retrospective video on it eventually. It's good schlock. Next, I went to my first actual panel of the con, which discussed the 10th anniversary of modern Ultraman shows. A lot of it wasn't new information to me, but the panelists were really funny, and I couldn't agree more with their points about the various shows they covered. I appreciate them going over the actual filmmaking of these shows too, you know, cinematography, production quality, etc., and how that evolved over time. AJ's observation about Ultraman Trigger really cracked me up. He said, "Trigger is Ginga S wearing Tika's skin." I've been looking for a way to connect these shows because they felt so similar to me, and I couldn't have better said it myself. Like, that's perfect. Next, I stuck around for the panel showing 8mm digest kaiju films. There was a lot of reminiscing for the first 25 minutes, a lot of it not being relevant to me as a Gen Zer, but it was entertaining. It's one of those things where you can be happy for boomers, you know? I've never seen 8mm films in action before, so this was a treat. Unfortunately, the film burned during the Johnny Sacco movie, so I really got to see the whole physical film experience here. I didn't get that part on camera, but the room lit up with disappointment when it happened, which, a darn shame. I hope that Super 8 wasn't rare. After putting up with some crap movie called Deep Sea Monster Raiga, I finally got some sleep and woke up with enough energy to attend the evening ceremonies. I was too busy looking for a working ATM in the surrounding half-mile. Kind of a waste of time considering the dealer's room mostly accepts debit and credit cards, so I gave up the search. To pass the time until the 10:30 movie, we put on the first 2 episodes of Ultraman Blazar.
He's a freak, I love him.
I had already seen episode 1, but episode 2 was a fresh watch. So from this episode onward, it seems like they're going to be doing something a little goofier than the tone the first episode implied, you know? It's not gonna be Nexus again. It's still fun, the cast they've set up is likable. I will say, the comedy is founded in observational humor about decorum and office politics, so maybe it's still aiming for that older audience. But that whole bit with Blazar pulling out his beam was something straight out of the Showa era. I love to see it. I look forward to the rest of the show, even if it doesn't live up to the tone it presented itself with.
Oh. Cannibal Holocaust.
But yeah, tonight we saw Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. Now, I was initially iffy about seeing this. I had already seen it in theaters last November for Godzilla Day, but I'm ultimately glad I went tonight. It's probably the best possible baseline for a really good Godzilla movie. The supporting cast is good. Godzilla is given an intimidating presence with his big, expressive eyes, and the film's heroine is likable. It's a breezy, clean 90 minutes. A pretty solid entry in the series. Anyways, I'm going to bed. Saturday's going to be busy. I started the day with a sandwich and strawberries, because I'm not paying for the food downstairs. The first activity of the day was an excursion into the dealer's room, where I broke my promise and got another figure. Actual last one, I swear. I really like G'd Primitive, what can I say? I also got some Ramune because Boom Mage got me hooked on that stuff years ago.
It's just soda with the gimmick of a little glass ball that prevents you from drinking it all in one gulp.
But the psychological effect is that you savor the flavor more. I like it. Next, I went to my first panel of the day, the interview with Yumiko Shaku, a fairly prolific actress who played Akane from last night's Godzilla against Mechagodzilla. Here's a couple bits from her interview. She worked with Ryuhei Kitamura, the director of Godzilla Final Wars, on a movie called Sky High, and she recalls a conversation with him where he said he didn't really like Godzilla that much, and that his goal was to destroy all previous Godzilla films with his own. Regardless of what you think of Final Wars, yeah, it certainly gave off that vibe, I don't know. Still a really fun movie, but like, it's a bit of a shitpost.
When asked where she thinks her character would be if they made another movie, she says she thinks Akane would be the Prime Minister, which, yeah, that's cute, I like that. That's a natural progression for the character, I think.
I didn't get it on film, but she reenacted her voice line from Godzilla Battle Line, where she calls for Kiryu, which was funny to hear live. I'm so used to hearing that in game.
Ikuyo, Kiryu! Ikuyo, Kiryu!
Next, I checked out the model room for the first time. I was waiting for the second day to check this out because not every model was available yet. Lots of cool work here. Big fan of the Godzilla and Xenomorph busts. These are being sold in the dealer's room, but I know I'd have to sell a kidney to own one of these. Next, I did some gaming with Potato Zuli. We played a bit of that shitty Godzilla arcade game.
This was before they decided on a name for Batra.
Then a couple rounds of Gigabash, an actually good game. After that, I checked out the TJ Storm panel. For those who don't know, he did the performance capture on the first two appearances of Godzilla in the American Legendary movies. And he's such a charismatic guy, just full of energy, which makes sense because he's a motion actor. Just seeing him move, yeah, that's Godzilla right there. Mocap like his gives Godzilla so much character. I hope the future Legendary films consider hiring more mocap actors like him, instead of doing the hand animation. It feels more like Godzilla when there's a person there, suit or not. It was a treat to see him in the flesh. The panel ended with him being gifted a giant Godzilla statue, so seeing him genuinely excited by it was really sweet. Cool panel. As a side note, I've seen 3 Serizawa cosplays today. It's a fairly easy one to do, as long as you have your own Oxygen Destroyer replica to complete the image. I hung out with Wikizilla's The Boy Who Cried Godzilla, and then I did a completely impromptu mini kaiju profile with him alongside Astounding Beyond Belief. We bullshitted the whole thing, and I don't know if it's even usable for a Wikizilla short. Hey kaiju fans, it's me, Golden.
I'm Michael Clary.
And I'm the Boy Who Cried Godzilla.
And we are here live at G-Fest to do a completely unprompted and unscripted kaiju profile on the man-eating plant from that one scene. I fucked up the name immediately. What's its name? The boy also gifted me gift art of one of my OCs, Steffi. Thank you so much for that. She's in a cosplay of Kanimatsu from Godzilla Domination. We took one more excursion into the dealer's room and conversed with Matt Frank for a bit. Pleasant guy in person. Thanks for being a patron. Also, his booth was selling the only Kaiju Girls media in the entire convention. Potato bought a Jet Jaguar plushie with magnetic arms. Every minute we found a new feature on this thing, like the wire arms and the wire legs. It was very funny. Best $20 they ever spent. For dinner, we ordered out and got some deep dish pizza. I'll leave this compliment in if I didn't get horrible stomach problems later from it, but I thought it was good. We'll definitely order from this place again if I attend next year.
I also interacted with another fan from Twitter, and they gifted me some kaiju figures.
Kinda breaking my no more figures clause, but I couldn't say no here. Once again, thank you very much. Rather stunningly, the issues with last year's costume parade were not addressed. In fact, they might have been worse, because more people were attending this year. Once again, costumes are good. There was a Pestar one, and the Ultraman-themed family was cute. But, problem here, there's a crowd blocking the view from the costume room that can easily not be a thing if they just... used the rest of the damn hallway. It just takes forever for all the costumed people to come out. I saw several people walking away because they've just given up. Here's a problem. They're still playing a game inside of the room that the costumed folk are heading into. And here's a big thing you need to know if you've never been to this convention. G-fans just clap incessantly for everything. So you don't know if the parade is about to start or if some panelist said Godzilla and their neurons activated in response. Jeopardy was apparently going on. That's Jeopardy with Godzilla trivia. So that's what the holdup was. There was this huge crowd waiting for the costume parade to start, and they just wouldn't stop playing Jeopardy. Just, oh my god, it was so poorly organized. There's no excuse for it to be like this in design. It's just so frustrating.
Just have a line of costumed people that extends out into the hallway. It's not that hard. There's so much space for it.
I eventually gave up. I went back to the room. The pics you're seeing now were taken by Boom Mage and Potato. Very brave of them to stick around for it. They were not happy by the end of it. The big event of the night, dare I say the entire convention, was the 10:30 screening of the 2014 Godzilla film. I would travel through hell if it meant I could experience this movie in a theater again. I only ever saw it once during its theatrical run, so I was not going to pass up this exceedingly rare opportunity. And yeah, it was a blast seeing Gareth Edwards' entry into the Godzilla series like this again. For one, it didn't have the same muted color problem that's on the Blu-ray and 4K disc. It was like actually seeing it for the first time again. There are still issues with it. The screenplay has its awkward moments, the main character is a bit of a wet bag, but holy hell, the production design and values hold up. The use of perspective shots and then the 1-2 punch of characters reacting to thing, then wide shot of thing being revealed, it's an effective trick and it's used throughout. The sound design and sound mixing gives the monsters a real presence. And everything builds up to a spectacular finish with excellent cutting between the human and monster action. It's been nearly a decade since this film debuted, but I'll still go up to bat for it and say it's still the best American Godzilla film. There's just so much care and intent in just every aspect of it. The others just don't hit that same ambitious stride for me. I might make a MonsterVerse video someday. I mean, do you really need to see something like that? I mean, every Godzilla fan's made one. I'm not going to add in anything new to that, you know? But standalone from the rest of these films, Godzilla 2014 is a good time. Not perfect, but I still really enjoy it. The crowd reactions were funny too. See, it's common for G-fans here to start incessantly clapping before the cool part even happens, because they know it's coming. So Godzilla would appear in a shot, get lots of claps, then he'd roar and get more claps, and it's like, guys, come on, let him do something first. The uncertainty for when to clap for Serizawa showing up was really funny too. Like, Bryan Cranston got a lot of claps because that was coordinated a little better, but the first shot of Serizawa is a side profile of him wearing sunglasses, so maybe they didn't realize it was him right away, and by then it was already too late to clap. It was a rare moment of restraint from this audience. Also, there was a part where everyone started clapping as soon as Godzilla's tail came into frame. I've got to count how often this clapping happens next year.
I am glad that this line got a substantial amount of claps, though.
Daddy's home.
Daddy's home.
Cake every night.
Right afterwards, in a state of insomnia-induced delirium, we discussed our plans to destroy G-Fest.
You had the brilliant idea of art of J.D. Lee's and G-Fantis having sloppy makeup.
Yeah.
I think that has the potential to destroy G-Fest, and I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
And I think that's what you need. You need to get it popular. And then J.D. Lee's has a meltdown. And then, you know, it splits. You know, half the weird, awful people are like, man, this is like the worst thing you could possibly ever create. And then the other half are like, holy shit, this is the best piece of art I've ever seen in my life. Then they split into two cons, which is Confederacy and Gay Fest. It's just G Fest, but every piece of art has to have sloppy makeouts between two of the same-sex monsters.
Okay.
I want the record to show that the sloppy makeouts was my idea.
Okay.
Yes.
That's.
I just think it has.
Yeah.
I
wasn't seeing the full potential.
This has the potential of a video titled
How this
"Gay
destroyed
Monster on Human Art Destroyed a Convention."
By now, I had run out of ham and cheese sandwiches, so I started the day with an egg croissant from the local Starbucks. Surprisingly edible. It probably helps that it wasn't from the hotel itself. But $8 for something this small is highway robbery. After getting checked out, I stumbled into the History of Godzilla and Kong theme park panel. I was 15 minutes late. The guy running it actually had some time working at Disneyland. I already knew parts of this information because there was a Defunct Land video about the World exhibition, but the panelist went more in-depth with the other Godzilla references in the park. It does stink that Kongfrontation doesn't exist in its original form anymore. I would have liked to ride that. The lady next to the main presenter actually worked as a spieler on that ride. A spieler is someone who, directs the audience's attention on the ride. So she had some fun stories regarding that. Hulk Hogan apparently rode the ride once. Also, shout out to the guy I passed using a Nintendo DSi for their camera. Extraordinarily based. I was tempted by the itch again and entered the dealer's room to get a t-shirt or something. My will prevailed and I ended up buying nothing. I've bought less and less from there every year. I'm kind of proud of myself for being more responsible with my money. You could get most of these figures for cheaper online anyways. The luster of the dealer's room has finally worn off. If only there was another place to use the money that I worked hard earning. Like a place to buy original art pieces that were made by fans. Like an artist alley. JD? Crazy idea, I know. Next we went to the Godzilla Redacted panel, which discussed how the military on both the American and Japanese side influenced the depiction of the military in these films. There was a concept introduced here called a showstopper, which is an element in a film that the US or Japanese military is uncomfortable with being associated with, so they ask for changes. An example with the 2014 Godzilla film. Ford Brody's character was originally written to be a bit more callous, and he would sort of develop as the film progresses, he'd become a bit more responsible. But apparently the
Pentagon Hollywood liaison
didn't like this original incarnation of the character, so he was stripped of personality, and that's what we have in the final film. Also, very interestingly, Serizawa's Let Them Fight speech originally had a reference to Hiroshima in it, but that was removed. They also touched upon the Self-Defense Force's involvement in the Japanese films, which was interesting to hear. Good panel. It was one of the more unique topics this year. Next, I went to the Kaiju Myth Debunking panel. I already knew a lot of these were fake, but some of them were new information to me. Like, for example, that Ultraseven episode that was supposedly scrapped because of the giant inflatable Ultraseven hand almost crushing Anne's actor. Yeah, that never existed. According to the panelists, there was a TV movie that depicted this event, and a lot of people just took this at face value. The moral of the story is to never trust the Ultra Wiki. After leaving the convention for a bit for food, I went downstairs to check out the shorts. I was mainly here for a short directed by Kiyotaka Taguchi, a director in many current Ultraman projects. But I got to see some pretty goofy fan shorts before then. Taguchi's film, Giant Monster Bugon, was about a sort of hot spring monster, and was made to promote a hot springs town in Japan. It makes use of high FOV and just a lot of handheld cinematography, but it all looks really steady and well done. And there's a lot of compositing of the suit action with the live action that looks quite good as well. I'm not going to show too much footage of it because that would be piracy, and, the director is looking for
a distributor for this, and it's only fair. Also, there's probably some legal rights with the town itself, so, I didn't take much footage of it. But there's a scene inside of a hotel lobby, and there's an explosion that happens, and it looks real. Like, it doesn't look like a special effect. It was really convincing. The miniatures are obviously miniatures, but it's all fun stuff. This short is goofy, it has some genuinely funny moments, the camera work is great, the incorporation of live action and suitmation is really well done, which is typical of this director. I hope it eventually gets released online, and you should check it out if it does. It's even more indicative of its Ultraman connection by the end, but I won't spoil the ending. Taguchi himself showed up at the end for a Q&A session, which was cool to see him in person. He's a nerd like the rest of us. So, yeah, that's how I capped off G-Fest. Conveniently, all my mutuals were in the same room, so I got to formally say goodbye to them. Then I took off. Also, what the fuck? G-Fantas was designed by Dave Filoni, the Star Wars guy? Seriously? So yeah, that's G-Fest 2023. I had fun. More fun than last year, honestly. But the cracks in the experience that were starting to show for the past 2 attendances were on full display here. Some panels are just redundant to me now. Most of the interesting ones were on the final day. I don't need to go to another panel talking about how Godzilla 98 might be underrated or just bad. I see this conversation every month on Twitter. It's tiring. Older attendees like me know the deal with these movies. We're treading old ground here. If the man running this convention didn't make me embarrassed to admit that I go to it, if there was more of an emphasis on the franchises beyond Godzilla, if the costume parade wasn't so tedious, and if the G-Fest pig was there, I'd be happier with it. I look to G-Fest as an opportunity to meet people I know online. I value these experiences. Once again, thank you to everyone who met me, both mutuals and followers. And seeing random like-minded people doing their own thing, that's cool. That's why conventions are so much fun. But if I find another convention that offers experiences like this, and is also kaiju related, I'll take that over this. I hear there's a convention in Canada this September, so maybe. I love the con experience, but I have no such love for G-Fest on its own. I hate to say it, but if I find an alternative, I'll take it. On a more positive note, once again, thank you to everyone I met. I know I just said that, but I want to reiterate because, yeah, I really enjoyed meeting y'all. I'll do this all over again just for that. Anyways, here is my toy haul. I may not have seen the G-Fest pig, but I did see a wild cat on the way home.
Hey there, guy.
I'm happy with that. And here's the patron readout. Thank you all for supporting me financially. I tried to not use as much of the patron money as possible, but I did use quite a bit of it for the gas on the way over. It's a 6-hour drive. Me and Boomage were taking turns on when we paid for gas. Anyways, thank you all so much. Here is a shout out to the highest tier of patrons. Golden made me an Ultraman fan. Swoosh McJuice, Navik 15, Jacob Hinch, Dude Bro, Griffith J. Hertenstein, Alastair Gilmore, Seamus Kelly, Anonymous Euronymous 1349, Fujoshi Urinal, Rhyme and Ruin, Mulan Nguyen, Ultraman Taro vs. Leo, Irrelevant 402, Hey I'm Mooney, Krazak 53, Kamen, Queer Kaiju, Chronicler Waba, Alcoholic Alligators, Ryan Santa Cruz, Avak Robot, The Antagonist, Richard Ciavardon, It's God Z, Big Odilo, CMG, Red Combat Harry, and Marpzilla. Thank you all very much.